excited to introduce Daniele. He has one of the most fun titles that combines not only operational excellence, but also analytics and AI. And this is actually what we've seen change, because the organizational structures are changing to support this approach that I was just talking about. So Daniele, without further ado, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Nathan, for inviting me. It's really a pleasure talking to you today and sharing my thoughts, my learning about my experiences on digital journeys. I thought it's a very early morning, so something to wake up. I will share, before I'm introducing myself, 2 provocative statements. And I don't have any dogs. But I met last week a CEO of a consumer company, and he impressed me because he was sharing this statement. Every day, everyone is talking about GenAI, but I don't see anything on my bottom line. I don't see any impact out of it. That's quite radical, right? I don't know if you have similar experiences. When I started at Roche, I basically asked 3 questions. How many digital initiatives do we have? What is the value that we are generating? How many people are involved? And it was very difficult to get answers to those 3 questions. So I can see some relevance into this statement. Second provocative statement. We all are aware there are 1,000 articles on the buzz of GenAI. So is GenAI, is the excitement around GenAI in danger of distracting business leaders to really do continuous improvement, right? Again, I don't know if it rings a bell, but I think quite provocative, and I will share a few of my experiences going on. The question is, how do we turn continuous improvement a reality in a digital environment, in a digital world? Before I'm starting, let me introduce myself. I'm Daniele Iacovelli. I'm Senior Vice President and Global Head of Digital Analytics and Operational Excellence. And as Nathan said, it's already a quite long title, and it combines digital, it combines advanced analytics, but more importantly, it combines also operational excellence. And I believe that that's really fundamental. I'm working at Roche since 3 years. Roche is one of the pioneers in healthcare. We have more than 100,000 employees. We are serving roughly 30 million patients, and we have an annual sales of roughly 60 billion. We are combining pharma and diagnostic under one roof, and we believe that we are innovators in science, and we want to also be innovators in digital. Now, talking about pharma operations. One of our, let's say, key objective is obviously making sure that we're developing molecules faster so that we can supply our medicine, our drug faster to our patients. The other element is everything that we are doing, we want to do it at highest quality and highest compliance. So creating robust processes is very important. And last not least, we are looking also at the efficient operations. Everything which is driving efficiencies, which help us to be more cost-effective as relevant. If we're looking at our reality is changing significantly at highest speed. Our product portfolio is changing. In 2021, we were launching, we had 3 blockbusters. By 2030, we'll have 45 products that we will launch. So it's a significant increase. We are serving a patient population which is getting smaller and smaller, rare diseases, very complex diseases that we are trying to really solve, which are really impacting patients' life. And that's really our DNA. Everything that we are doing to really save patients' life. Now, if we're looking at my organization on the right side from my side, on the left side of the page, as I said, I'm combining multiple elements which I think are fundamental to drive really digital and continuous improvement. One element is obviously digital strategy and value realization. That's really fundamentally important. It's really realizing the value that we are expecting to achieve. Then we have a chapter around data, creating the foundations of data. One chapter working on everything related to advanced analytics, AI. One component is IT and tech foundations, so I'm heading everything around innovating the IT landscape and infrastructure, composable MES, ERP harmonization, obviously cybersecurity, all those kind of components. Then very important, operational excellence. How do we integrate operational excellence into digital and vice versa? I will share a few thoughts around that. Knowledge management, academy, capability building, and also the digital products and services. At a certain point, solutions are getting mature. How do we ensure that these products are really generating value along the life cycle? Let me share my 8 essentials. What do I believe are really fundamentals of a digital journey and continuous improvement? I'm starting with something which seems obvious, but researchers shows that actually 70% of all companies which are doing digital are not successful. And for me, the most important is, you can call it however you want, digital transformation, GenAI, business transformation, it doesn't matter. The name of the game remains value. Value is the anchor point. Number 2, it's not only important to innovate, it's important to scale. If you want to generate value, you need to be able to scale. That's fundamental. And I will share a few elements on how Roche has done it. Number 3, building data and digital products versus just playing with toys. Very often, when I want to be provocative, I'm saying to my organization, we are not Toys R Us, right? We want to create solutions which are delivering value, benefit to the organization. We don't want to just play with toys. For 6 months, I'm getting bored, I'm buying a new toy, and it goes like this forever. Fourth element is triple transformation requires blending of digital, IT, and OE. As I said, my organization, which I started to build from scratch almost 3 years ago, just reflects that. I have digital components, I have OE components, and I have IT components. And all of that is really required to transform the organization, to create new ways of working. I don't want to only solve a problem, I want to work in a different way to be able to really generate significant impact and not only incremental. Data is knowledge, knowledge is power. I think everyone knows it, but everyone struggles with it. It takes very often a lot of time to make data available, accessible, reusable. In our case, up to 6 to 12 months just to access data and to generate value. And the development actually of the solution very often just a few days then. Workforce of the future. Everyone is exploring, testing GenAI. The question is, do all our people have tutors, co-pilots to take data-driven decisions? How does the future really look like? 7, the best company will be the best testers. I think especially in a pharma environment, in a regulated environment, just being able to build solutions is not enough. How do we test them? How do we validate them? It's really important. And again, I will share a few insights on what I did. Continuous improvement needs an upgrade. I will share at the end a bit of my formula of continuous improvement. Before joining Roche, I was a partner at McKinsey. I was working for 12 years at McKinsey and serving multiple pharma, medtech, consumer companies on their digital strategy, as well as on their digital transformation and real implementation. And I want to share a bit of my insights there as well. Now I will go one by one and just sharing a few reflections. Now again, it seems so obvious. We need to focus on value. Everyone would say, yes, I agree. But many companies really struggle to do that. Very often I see an over-focus and a primary focus on technology. It's basically what you see on the right side of the page. Tech is very often the anchor point. Hey, here have a new solution, here have a platform, let's install and let's see. Then breaking down, okay, now that I know the technology, what kind of capabilities do we need to build? And really the last thought is then, now that we have done all of that, what kind of value do I get out of it? I think that's wrong. What I would recommend to do is really looking at business value as the starting point, the anchor point. And very often I see also a too strong focus on isolated single use cases. What I'm doing is I'm looking at value pools. Value pools, for me, it's a combination, it's a clustering of use cases end-to-end, which leads at a certain point to a different way of working. That's really fundamental. I do not care about single use cases. I care about value pools, a cluster of use cases which leads to different capability. And it's really about rethinking value pools, prioritizing them, and realizing the value. In my organization, I have a value realization office, which really monitors every single digital initiatives, every cluster, and understands what kind of value are we generating out of it. Again, when I started at Roche, I asked how many digital initiatives we have. And after a lot of effort, we came to 700 digital initiatives, 700 use cases. It was just incredible. How much value do we get? Yeah, difficult to say. So what we have done is we changed from 700 digital initiatives to the top 20 value pools that we see across the organization, from technical development, manufacturing, quality, supply chain, regulatory, cell and gene. And started to focus really on that, and also understanding what kind of way of working do we create and what kind of value do we generate out of it. In terms of technology, it's really about how do I productionize the solutions that I'm building. I want to have not toys, I want to have products, digital services, which are creating benefit and value of the organization. I'm looking at how do I standardize and harmonize my architecture, my infrastructure as much as possible to create efficiency, because again, it really hinders speed if your infrastructure is very rigid and monolithic. And last not least, I'm trying to scale as much as possible and to make it as a service, open source as much as possible, because at the end, it's really about democratization, penetration of the full organization. That's what provides value. If only a few data scientists or data engineers can leverage AI, it does not help an organization. And as at Roche, we have more than 100,000 people. In pharma technical operation, we have roughly 12,000 people. It's really about penetrating all these kind of people to make sure that we are generating benefit. If we're now looking just an example of potential value pools, we are looking at product-related ones, asset-related ones, people and process-related ones, and then we're looking at tech foundations. And just the exemplary, obviously the list is much longer, but when we're talking about products, we are doing all kind of things to increase their throughput. We're looking how do we are able to predict cell aging, how do we improve yield and titer optimization in real time. All these kind of things which are helping us to launch, to develop molecules faster, and increase the throughput. We're looking at assets. Also, I think it's obvious, everything which helps us to make our assets more robust, more reliable, increase our capacity. In a few sites, we have capacity constraints. So everything that we are able to do in a more prescriptive way, more predictive way, helps us a lot to increase capacity. And then on the people process side, again, here is really about how can we leverage, for instance, Tulip, no-code, low-code platforms to be able that people can solve their own problems. I don't want them to always wait for a data scientist or data engineers to develop an AI model. As much as possible, I want to enable them, augment them to solve their own problem. That's, for me, a fundamental element of continuous improvement. If we're looking at now the topic about scaling versus innovating, I think there are a few things from an operating model, from a governance that we put in place to ensure that, again, that not 1,000 flowers are blooming, that we don't have 700 proof of concept pilots, but rather a few scalable solution products and services which can be reused and are generating significant value. We have built a so-called tech council. And this tech council, again, is not only about controlling and funding. It's really about advising the organization on what kind of tech standards do we want to put in place, advising on how to really deploy a specific initiative, how to redesign processes so that we can really work in a different way. If I am able to create an AI-driven prediction of the quality deviation, for instance, or if I'm able to create an AI-driven production scheduling solution, but I'm still working as in the past, then I'm not generating any benefit. And that's really what this tech council is doing. Again, not only funding, but really enabling the organization to do the right things. Then there are a few elements in terms of how to deploy and scale. For instance, in our site, we have different sites. And for every site, we define who is the leading site for a specific topic and who is the following site. Why? Because we want to really reduce the element of fragmentation. We want to avoid that all the sites are doing similar things, and there is a competition, and there is a lot of fragmentation because they're trying to solve similar problems with different vendors. So we are really defining who is leading. The accountability and responsibility of this leading site is to make sure that obviously the solution which is built serves the sites, but is also able to scale for the following site. So we have also defined roles: global owner, product owner, global product owner, and a local product owner. The local product owner is obviously making sure that the solution is creating value at the local site. The global product owner is ensuring that the solution can be scaled across the network. Now talking about data and digital products. Again, the important element is here, I don't want to see toys, I want to see really solutions which are solving problems, which are creating a different way of working. A few elements, I mean, Nathan was already saying it. One fundamental component is composable architecture. Very often we are very rigid, monolithic. If we want to scale digital initiatives, it takes a lot of time and effort and cost to do that. In our case, we are living in a very dynamic environment. Our product portfolio is changing significantly. We are doing cell and gene. We are doing also cardiovascular, oncology. The business is very different depending on the, let's say, the therapeutic area that we are focusing on. And we need flexibility. We need modularity. And that's why we are also rethinking our architecture, also leveraging low-code platforms as Tulip, and we are really investigating how to do that. Then around data products, data mesh, again, huge buzzword, how to make it happen. We recognize that every industry is struggling. And what we have done is, first of all, one of the challenges is if organizations are saying, hey, let's make all data available and accessible, it's a huge monster, no chance to succeed. So what we are doing is we are looking at, let's say, the value pools that we want to generate. And based on this, we are saying what are the data products which are linked to specific digital initiatives and are helping us really to generate value. So that helps us to prioritize, first of all, the data products which are really relevant, the data products which are feeding multiple use cases than just one. And then we have, again, we have product owners. They are really entrepreneurs. Their business is to make data reusable, accessible. Their business is to make sure that the stakeholders is really getting what he needs. His business is really to ensure that he's providing new services to the business. It's really an entrepreneurial role and not only, let's say, a tech role. Then if I'm looking at low-code, no-code platform, as I said, as I discussed, the fundamental element is here, I want to have the organization solving their own problems. I don't want to have people waiting for a data scientist building a fancy tool. I want to, let's say, democratize and penetrate the organization as much as possible. And that's also one of the important strategies that we're looking at. Last not least, a very important topic, and I will come also to that more explicitly. We have recognized, for instance, that we are able to build applications in 2 days, but the validation takes us very often 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. It's not a scalable, obviously, approach, right? So we are starting also to rethink the way that we validate. Obviously, we are talking with the health authorities, regulators, to redesign the way that we validate. Now talking about, let's say, the setup also. Again, triple transformation means we're looking at business, we're looking at technology, we're looking at the people dimension. It's really important to build so-called translator capabilities. That's, for me, translators are people which obviously have deep domain process knowledge, understand the business very well, and have tech capabilities and operational excellence capabilities. And as you can imagine, those folks you don't get from university. very often, and the most part of it, so 90% of those people, we are really upskilling ourselves. We have created the so-called translator learning journey, where people are running through theoretical but also on-the-job training to really make sure that they are getting digital AI data expertise, IT expertise, and really operational excellence expertise. And the second element is the operating model. How do they work together? I mean, we've created really a playbook on what kind of phases do I see in the deployment of digital initiatives. There is a clear phase of so-called diagnostic, understanding the problem statement, understanding what kind of problems I want to solve. I'm baselining, let's say, the impact, the KPIs I want to see moving. Then I'm designing the solutions, the service that I want to have. And then I'm running into an implementation and scaling approach. Within these phases, there are always people from digital, operational excellence, and IT involved in different, obviously, time dedication. But it's very standardized. Everyone knows their responsibility. Everyone knows what to do and when he is required, or she. On data, as I said, an important element is going away from a single focus on use cases, but more into a data product-driven understanding. And in our case, obviously, every data product is linked to a use case. We exactly know data product, for instance, batch genealogy or equipment settings, how many use cases need this specific data product, so that on one hand, I can quantify the value of each single data product. This helps me to prioritize. This helps me to obviously also fund and accelerate specific things. And related to that, also what kind of architecture I need to build to make sure that I'm accelerating the way that we are creating these data products. Now, if we're looking at the future of the workforce, in our way, I mean, again, GenAI is really a big buzzword. What I've experienced is that GenAI very often is used for basic things like summarizing meeting minutes, writing email, suggesting email. That's for me really basic stuff, kind of admin stuff. I don't think that there is a lot of value doing that. It's good for the organization to, let's say, build the capabilities to activate and mobilize the organization. But in terms of value, I think it's not really a step change. What we are looking at different components, so-called assistant, ideation partner, expert, and kind of tutor elements of GenAI. When it comes to assistant, one of the examples that we are doing, we have created a GenAI bot, which is assisting people in really going through a quality deviation process. I mean, if you're coming from pharma, you understand that's really a fundamental and key element of our organization, understanding the root causes of quality deviation and managing through the process. It's quite a huge effort. People typically need to really look into multiple documents, need to talk to many people, and we have built a GenAI bot which is predicting the specific root cause, advising people, but still the decision is made by the analyst or by the, let's say, operator. It's an important element from a validation perspective and a regulatory perspective. Technically, we could really do end-to-end prediction of root causes, but I think we still want to have a person really deciding. On, let's say, tutoring, again, understanding the elements of process variability, and it's not only creating insights, but what we are really doing is driving through the optimization process in real time. So what we are providing to an operator is not only the understanding the levers of why we see variability in a specific process, which is impacting throughput. We are really steering the operator in real time to get the optimal value and the optimal output, for instance. Now, talking about validation. As I said, we are creating applications, and very often it takes 2-3 days to create this application. There is a lot of excitement in doing it. That's what you see. That's the 10% of the current work. It's great. It's creating a lot of excitement. Everyone wants to do it. It's really not anymore a push, but it's a pull. Fantastic way of democratizing digital. but they are getting frustrated because in order to use it in an industrial GMP environment, you need to still wait 6 months, 8 months until it gets validated. So here it's really about, and you see how many people need to get involved as well. So it's time consuming, it's also resource intense. And we are really rethinking the way of validation. I'm doing it more risk-based. It's one important element. I mean, health authorities are also writing papers to that. And one of the fundamental areas that we are doing it, we are trying to build so-called templates. We're starting to obviously validate the platform. We're starting to validate the specific application. We're starting to validate the specific use. But we are doing it in a kind of empty shell approach. So the empty shell is without content. We are first validating the empty shell. And then we are providing the content which might be different from site to site, from process to process. If I'm doing cleaning in site A and cleaning in site B, or if I'm doing yield optimization in one site for a specific product, but doing output optimization for another product, the process looks very differently, but at least I've already validated the shell of the solution, which helps me to accelerate. And then I'm starting to also look at the specific content. Now, I try to summarize everything into a formula. You know, as a former consultant, if you would have asked me, what does it take to do continuous improvement, to turn continuous improvement into reality, I would have told you, it depends. There is no silver bullet. I was really trying to summarize it, and I think what are the critical components to continuous improvement in the digital world? First, rapid wins. Why did I not use quick wins? Quick wins always feels like it's irrelevant. It's very small things, low-hanging fruits, not really value, but that's not what I mean. I want to see tangible value in a very fast way. And the analogy is really like, I like to do sport, marathon. Rapid wins are, you're starting with 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers, right? You're starting small, but you are trying to get the rapid wins to really be able then to run the 40 kilometers. The second important component is consistency, right? I mean, you should never stop to run. If you want to run the 40 kilometers, you cannot do 1 week yes, and then 1 week no, and then after 2 weeks I'm starting again. That's not how you really get to the 40 kilometers. And in digital, it's the same. It's a journey. I mean, Nathan was mentioning it. It's not a 6-month journey. I mean, you're building future capabilities. It does not end. You need to be continuously really working on it. You need to set up the governance in the right place to make sure that you are monitoring the value, that you are building the capabilities to be really consistently generating value. Third component is recovery. As in sport, at a certain point you need to recover. Your muscles need to recover to be able to build them more strongly. Your bones need to recover. And in digital journey, this means you need to make sure that you are upskilling your organization. You need to make sure that you are building a culture which is able to also fail fast, test fast, in order to recover the learnings very quickly and actually come to different insights. An important element, the last one, you see progressive overload. Again, analogy in sport, in muscle building. At a certain point, you need to do a step change. You cannot always do 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers, 6 kilometers. At a certain point, you are jumping to 20 kilometers, right? And that's also in a digital journey. At a certain point, it's not anymore sufficient to do a proof of concept here in a small isolated area, well-scoped area. At a certain point, you need to do it end-to-end to really generate value. Yeah? What are the things which are minimizing, let's say, the continuous improvement? We have 2 elements, friction. From my side, that's basically everything related to IT, rigidity coming from a monolithic infrastructure. Resistance, that's everything around change management, resistance of the organization. And again, I've seen it very often. Change management is perceived as communication or training. Let's do some training, let's communicate, let's do a town hall. That's not change management. It's really about redesigning business processes. And that's where also operational excellence needs to play a fundamental role. Again, it's not communication change management. How do I get the full value? So how do I raise the power of continuous improvement, democratization of tools? And that's, again, where low-code platforms plays a key role. If I'm not able to access the full organization with what I'm doing on my digital journey, I will never be able to really drive continuous improvement. That's the fundamental aspect. Again, just my interpretation. Now finalizing with 2 last slides. Just today, basically a few hours ago, the World Economic Forum released a press release. And we are super excited that one of our sites got designated as an advanced digital lighthouse, our site in Basel, which again is a proof of 3 things. The World Economic Forum process, I don't know if you have applied to that. It's a very strict process. You need to prove a couple of things. First, you need to prove that with digital technology, you did not only provide incremental value, but really a step change in value. They are really proving very narrowly what kind of impact you generated across the organization. Second criteria that they are looking at, were you able to scale technology? Not only in one side, but actually across your network. Scaling technology, scaling the capabilities that you need to really drive continuous improvement in a digital world. And last not least, it's really about, again, redesigning the way that you're working. They did also an in-person visit, and they wanted to see how people are now working differently with technology. Again, for us, it's a great achievement, and a recognition also that it takes some time. And again, I started almost 3 years ago when I joined Roche, and it takes time to really shift few elements to get to scalability. I started with 2 provocative statements. I'm ending now a bit with the fun moment. Question is, does continuous improvement actually need humans? Certainly, there are a few tools which I think could replace me in a keynote speech or in a panel session. And I don't know if you have used the Notebook LM. It's an interesting tool. I mean, what I did is basically just upload my presentation, and the tool created a podcast in literally 1 minute.
It feels like AI is everywhere you turn these days.
Yeah, definitely a lot of buzz.
But how much of it is actually making a real impact? You know, like, I get that it has potential, but where are the tangible results?
That's the question a lot of folks are asking.
Especially in industries like pharmaceuticals, with these complex processes, it's got to be tough to sort the hype from the reality.
Right.
Which brings us to today's deep dive on Roche.
Okay.
Their CEO.
So thank you for that. I think at a certain point I will not be any more required for these kind of things. But I still believe, and I think that's the learning, digital, again, will obviously need humans. It's a transformation which needs business understanding, technology innovation, and augmentation of people. Thank you.